Come in, come in, something, one thing. Come in, something, one thing. Come in, something, one thing.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship for Season 3. It is the press day at Road America, a day where we get everything set up, we get ourselves prepared. These drivers are going to be doing the same as well around this American circuit. It's a great place to come to really test the waters as these guys are going to be doing here tonight, ready ahead of our third season in the GT3 Championship at World Series Leagues. Of course, powered by Race Anywhere, as always. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Zach Sweeney for this race once again, as I will be for a good part of the season as well. And Zach, it's great to be here. Another GT3 Championship on the horizon for the next 10 weeks or so. We're going to be going racing every single week with one break week in between. And it's a very exciting time indeed. A new Mercedes been added to our racing as well. So very much looking forward to getting this underway with a bit of an opener here at Road America.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, nothing really at stake today. So let's just go out there, have a bit of fun, get yourself used to how things are going to run, maybe the format, or just to see where you are in the pecking order. Nothing really at stake. So yeah, you can give yourself a little bit more risk. You can take a little bit of leniency sometimes out there, and of course that should give us a fantastic race. But as you say, yeah, exciting prospect on the horizon with 10 weeks of this race in action. And as always, really iRacing GT3s and the variety of tracks that we've got this season, and it should be a pretty good one.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a great variety of cars now on iRacing, as you well know. And of course, we're going to kind of introduce everybody to this championship as well as we go through the night, as well as we get set towards our first race of the day. We've already had qualifying that went on for about 10 minutes throughout earlier on, a little bit earlier on. We'll go through the grid in a few moments' time. But it was Alexi Urenga who took that pole position, ready for this 25-minute sprint race, which we're going to have coming up right now. It's going to be Alexi Urenga who's going to take that pole position away with him and see if he can take the lead through turn one. Thomas Cope is alongside him with Albin Kjellberg just into third position. Sean Campbell fourth, ahead of Stuart Reynolds, rounding out the top five. Yuri Mathieson will be sixth, ahead of Thomas Reiter. Harry Wills is in eighth position, ahead of Dion Phillips and Thomas Dangridge, rounding out your top 10. And then we scroll down a little bit further to the rest of the drivers. We'll cycle those through on your screen. I won't read them all out because there's a whopping number of cars on the grid here. I've got to tell you, 37, and that's not even all of those who are entered. Earlier on, I counted 45 cars. Oh, that's actually 46 now. They were 46 cars entered into this series. It's a whopping grid here, Zach, and it's a 25-minute sprint race to kick us off with a Pro and Am split as well. The Pro cars at the front of the field with the Am cars just in behind.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be fantastic. And of course, look out for the full reverse grid just after 55 minutes. And of course, for that massive grid, there's going to be a lot of cars to get through for the faster guys. So it should certainly bring about some really, really good action, Ewan.
So we got a whole formation lap to delve a bit deeper, but as you say, at the end of this race, we're going to be getting a full reverse grid, by the way, not top 10, not top 20. The whole grid will be reversed, and then it's a 50-minute race with likely a pit stop in there as well, because these guys, I believe, are limited to 50% in terms of their fuel load. They'll have the maximum kind of fuel load If you see what I mean, they can only fill it up halfway. I couldn't find that in the rules, but that seems to be what everyone thinks in the in the driver chat earlier on. So, and that's the way it was in previous seasons as well. That's going to be the way it works in this season as well. Obviously, they'll be able to make just over half an hour, which is fine for the first race, but won't be fine for the 50-minute second race. The interesting thing about that, Zach, is though, you see this in Formula 2 when you get the reverse grid, you have less points available because it's kind of more unpredictable and you don't want a kind of a chancer almost winning the title. What we've got here is actually more points available for race 2. I know it's a longer race, but it is a reverse grid, so those who can actually make their way through the traffic might actually stand a better chance at winning than those who are legitimately fastest.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be a very interesting prospect because, as you say, it does, in a sense, come down to chance. But then again, it will reward consistency. The difference, really, between race 1 and race 2 points isn't that much. Of course, in race 1, it's 40 points for a win. Race 2, it's 50. So, it's not a massive difference. But, of course, over the course of a 10-round season, of course, no points scored today. Over the course of that 10-round season, consistency really will pay dividends. And it does, go back to that thing of you can be a good qualifier, you can run away at the start. But if you can't cut your way through a field, if you don't have that racecraft and that patience, then that just goes to show that you might not be the best racer out there. So yeah, it will certainly separate the good from the great.
It will. It's an all Lamborghini lockout as well, as you can see, with Alex Uranga and Thomas Cope out front at the moment for RSR and Olympus Esports, respectively. Both of those drivers have been at their respective teams for quite a long time now. Very experienced in the GT3 ranks. Slightly less experienced in terms of the car being driven at the moment by Sean Campbell, I think that is, on the inside line. Or is it Campbell or Kozelberg who's driving the Mercedes? I can't tell because they're running side by side at the moment and they keep swapping positions. It's very hard to tell. But yes, the new Mercedes has been released, and it's quite a brave choice. It was only released a couple of weeks ago. A brave choice to select a new car for a new championship like this one.
Yeah, well, he'll quickly regret it or be very thankful that he chose it. Of course, they can't change their cars unless it's special circumstances, and even then, it's quite limited in what they can do. So, yeah, it's a risk to take, but if it works out, he will certainly see the light there. Of course, they'll do a lot of practice in those cars to see if it is the right one for them, but it is always your risk because you don't really have it properly acclimatized in these race conditions. So, yeah, this will be a learning experience for him as well.
As it will be for all of us over the next 25 minutes. The Pro cars have been split with the AM cars. There's not going to be a gap between the two classes in this field. However, the AM cars have been put towards the back despite the qualifying performances that they may have. That's what the purpose of the little break between qualifying and the race was for. But we're now set up for the press day in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship in Season 3. The pace car pulls in and the Pro cars are ready to get underway. Alex Uranga versus Thomas Cope on the front row. It's a Lamborghini lockout at Road America, and the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship is set to get underway, and it does so over the line for Alex Uranga, and he's already got a nice jump over the field. It's Albin Kjellberg who's managed to get himself possibly into second here from third. Thomas Cope is stuck up high and wide on the outside line through turn one. He's not going to be able to make his way through there in second, so he's going to be pushed back and maybe even further because Sean Campbell is right behind him, but it runs all single file into what is turn 3. Uranga off to a nice start though through the first couple of corners, and it's a very clean start for the Pro drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Cope as well, looking on the rear end of Kjellberg. A little bit further back into the AM category. We're on board with Patterman in the AMs. He's managed to make up a couple of places over the Pros and consolidate the lead in the AM Championship. Into the main braking zone of the track, turn number 5. And you can see everyone just trying to file their way through, keep it nice and clean, because while it is, actually I'll say that, there is a couple of cars off. This is Dion Phillips and I think Taylor Lane a little bit further up off as well. So while this is 20 minutes, it is a short race. You still want to be thinking long game.
It was possibly Thomas Reiter as well, or maybe Taylor Lane, you might be right. Let's have a little replay as to what happened here. It was definitely Dion Phillips who ended up out in the gravel, but how? Very late on the brakes. Oh, too late. And he hits the Audi very hard indeed. He, I think, just feels bad about that and slowed down to ensure that I think Reiter was able to continue on in that position, but there will be damage on that Ferrari as well. As through at the very fast kink there at turn 11. Goes Alex Urenga. He's got a nice lead. Kjellberg not too far behind. It is staying fairly close, fairly nicely close for the moment. He's opening laps as they go through Canada Corner for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone just trying to keep it nice and clean, settle into a rhythm. Of course, this is their first lap of the new season, and Urenga is doing a fantastic job. Kjellberg, though, is there in the slipstream range. That's going to be a very important factor, just to stay there, put some pressure on. And while he's not quite close enough to actually go for the move potentially now, playing that psychological pressure and putting Urenga under pressure, filling his mirrors, maybe eyeing up a couple of moves and just getting close enough to when, if Urenga does make a mistake, that he can capitalize. That'll be very, very important. But you can see the top fives all the way back to Reynolds still locked in this train, and I'm sure that's going to be a common theme throughout the race. You can see as soon as one moves to the inside, they all follow in a snake-like train just to make sure they can get that slipstream as well, because that just goes to show how important it is.
Absolutely. So lap one completed. Alex Urenga leads. We're going to have to briefly cut away here just to fix a couple of sound issues, so I apologise for that. But we are just going to have to fix a couple of those for a couple of moments. So we will try and tell you about what's happening out there on the road while you can't necessarily see it. We will try and tell you about what is going on. I can tell you that in the AM category, Ivor van der Linden is going to take the lead over the line for the first time. There's a lot of AM cars in this field, by the way. I think only 16 of the 37 car field here tonight are indeed pro drivers. And so there's a lot of those guys in AM at the moment. Van der Linden nearly a 2-second lead already as they go over the line for the first time. We are now fixed, and we can now get pictures back again. So thanks to David Christie, who's doing his thing behind the scenes at the moment to get this broadcast to you on a limited timescale here tonight, as Alex Urenga does indeed just eke out those few temps at the moment. Thomas Cope is falling into that classic trap of getting roped into a bit of a battle with Kjellberg and Campbell and Reynolds, and it's all allowing the leader to get away pretty much unchallenged at the moment at the front.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to break into that four-way fight for second place, and this is going to be to the delight of Alex Urenga, who can now just branch away, use the battling behind just to get a nice clear gap, build a buffer zone. So maybe if his pace does drop off towards the end, he has that gap just to rail it in a little bit, try and limit the mistakes as best he can. This is Michael Patterman. He's got a hand just behind, trying to chase down Harry Wills in front in 7th place. But again, it's just about managing that gap, trying to stay consistent and maybe up a move. But again, as I was saying, yes, it's a 20-minute race. Yes, it's a short race, but again, you've got to be thinking about those last 5 minutes. Where are you going to set your car up for that final 5 minutes? Do you battle early on and wear yourself out, potentially risk a crash just for one extra place, or do you play the longer game, just sit behind, play the slipstream and just see how the race goes? Because in a 20-minute race, people are going to go for moves that are arguably a little bit questionable. You can then be the one to capitalize on that, and chances are, if you battled, you've fallen a bit too far behind, you might not be in a prime zone to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael Patterman at the moment is indeed in the 8th position. Now, I'm not entirely sure how he's found himself here, because there was a class split, or what I assumed was a class split between the pro and the AM drivers. He is listed as a pro, as a pro, is he? Oh, well, I'm not entirely sure. Who knows? At this stage, it is a press tape. We don't quite know where everybody is, and they don't either. Just to update you, by the way, on how they decide who's pro and who's AM. Those with more than 2,500 of I rating are immediately put up into pro. Those with below that are put into AM, but some of those with 2,200 and above may be moved up by the admins if they are ridiculously better than the others. So that's also kind of what a press day is for, as we've got here today at the moment. Yeah, Padman at the moment is just holding off Liam Ahern and Taylor Lane as well. You can just see in the background. Something else I'd like to comment on as well. It's a little bit further behind this in the back end of the pro field. You might be able to see one of them come around the corner there. We've got a Ford GT on the field. Don't see very many of them anymore. Well, you didn't used to in the old days either, really. They've never been the most popular car on the service. However, they are being represented once again in that Ford, and I'm very glad to see that. Going side by side even into Canada Corner.
Yeah, what a lad is Ethan Bass, just to represent the Ford. And he's putting up a decent fight against Matthews as he goes through there in the Lamborghini. Of course, that's going to be naturally not a very hard fight. You can see how he's wrestling the car. Yeah, that Ford GT, if you are new to iRacing, is notorious for being the slowest car of the GTs, even with the balance of performance. It is remarkably slow. So for him to be in P12 is a pretty decent achievement. Of course, you'd expect maybe even some of the AMs to be on his tail. But yeah, he's representing. As we see a remake, this is Chamorro there, just going straight on into the barrier. And well, that was a weird instance to say the least.
That was strange, and there's a strange bit of gravel going on there, but anyway, Chamorro, oh dearie me, that car is damaged by the looks of things, and you see him bringing all the gravel back onto the circuit as well, yeah, an unfortunate incident for him, a little bit further back in the pack. Further up front, Sean Campbell has got himself up into the 3rd position ahead of Albin Kjellberg. You'll just be able to see that in the background, the new Mercedes, excuse me, being displaced there, and is down to 4th. Thomas Cope even is in 2nd, back to where he started this race, of course, after getting back through on the Mercedes in those opening laps. And Sean Campbell looking fairly attentive at the moment, looking to possibly make it in RSR 1-2. And of course, there is a teams championship in the Race Anywhere, the World Series GT3 Championship, so you do have to be looking out for those teams throughout as well. But for the moment, Sean Campbell just applying that pressure to Thomas Cope, not able to make a move just for the moment, struggling as you might expect, although a nice run through the kink, there might be a chance here.
Yeah, potentially so. He is going to eye it up. Is Sean Campbell looking to the right-hand side of Thomas Cope, who is going to be looking to go the long way round. It should be pretty easy just to be able to brake late, carry that momentum round. But of course, Campbell's going to have that shorter run in the Porsche, just going to try and get the drive off the corner. Unfortunately, that's not going to be able to come into fruition as they head in towards the final set of corners. Is he going to up and move a dive to the right-hand side, thinking about it? And this has brought Kjellberg back into the mix. So it seems for now that Thomas Cope is coping with the pressure well.
He is nice.
Thank you. I was going to do it. I had to find a way.
I nearly missed that, but yeah, well done. He's going to certainly have to cope with a lot more down the straight here, and he's going to get absolutely steamrolled, I think. That Mercedes looks quite quick, and so does Campbell, who's going to have to defend his own line. He's not the one making the overtake. He's defending his line as well. Oh, there's contact. Kjellberg tries to fit his car down a very small gap, and the both of them have gone around. Sean Campbell indeed gets back going again a bit quicker. He'll rejoin in about 5th position, maybe a bit worse, but there's suspension damage, big suspension damage. That was contact, and that is a controversial incident as well. Deary me, Kjellberg is, well, was he unjust going down the inside on the pit exit like that, or was there space for that move? That one is going to be argued about, but Sean Campbell is going to be out of this race.
Yeah, that car did not look very appealing to drive by any stretch of the imagination. It was a difficult move, of course. You could argue maybe Sean Campbell just pushed him onto the grass a little bit too much, but then again, Kjellberg did go for a bit of a squeeze. They're already too wide. Why would you make it 3? You can see darting to the right-hand side is alongside, but it's that where the track tightens back again, and it's that slight bit of contact, and you do just become a passenger. Fortunately, I don't think anyone else really was collected, apart from Kjellberg, who was tapped round again. But yeah, that's one of those things. It's unfortunate because Campbell was probably eyeing up the Lamborghini to his left, not really focused to his right as much. But I think the main cause of that incident really was how the track tightened there.
Yeah, it's I think because Kjellberg tried to use the kind of pit exit, as you say, to get that leverage down the inside, and he, yeah, unfortunately made contact. What I can say as well, one of the Lamborghinis, I can't remember who exactly it was, but the orange Lamborghini that was running at the back of this train as well was the one that hit Kjellberg, who is now down in 12th. See him a long way off the leader, Alex Urenga, at the moment. But, yeah, where is that orange Lamborghini, and who was it who was at the back of that train there? Because I don't know at the moment. Oh, one of the McLarens goes around. Bastian Wigbold has gone around, I'm afraid, in the 3 car. 25th position, and it's going to be a lot worse for him. It looks like it might have been even on his own. Another one of those almost classic old cars. McLaren really did used to compete for world championships and so on and so forth, so not exactly an unused and an unliked car by everybody, but gets little use today. Unfortunately, going for a spin down there at the what is turn 5, bizarrely, on this track. It was Stuart Reynolds who's going to the pit lane. I think he was the Lamborghini that hit Kjellberg around a little bit further in that incident. Either way, a number of drivers have benefited from that one, and it's all spaced out at the front of the field after that. Might have been a chaos, really, at the front of the pro field. Anyway,
Yeah, just a little bit at the front of the pro field. Of course, Alex Urenga, no complaints from him at all as he sort of runs away at the front. You can't even see Thomas Cope really in frame, just about there as he pops through. I think it's around about a 5.5 second gap back. So yeah, Alex Urenga, of course, you can't get complacent at this point in the race. You've still got half of it to go. But looking back, he can see the gap. He knows obviously that Thomas Cope is a little bit way back. He can breathe as such, but of course he can't afford to drop pace because if he does, then he might fall back into the clutches. But at this point, is it easy for Alex Urenga really to just maybe switch off a little bit?
It definitely is. Although, to be fair, I always used to have this problem if I was running around on my own, not in the lead. It's a very weird thing. Whenever you're in the lead, you feel like you don't need to do any more as you're going around to kind of push on any further because you are leading by a margin such as this. But I'd be much more likely if I was in Thomas Cope's position to make a mistake because I'd want to try and push to get the leader. There's kind of an inherent want to get the leader, and that's when mistakes are a bit more likely. But at least for me, but I've never seen anybody else have that problem before. But either way, Alex Urenga has led enough races to know what he's doing here. And yeah, at the end of the sixth lap in this race, he has got a very nice lead. As we go to another leader, Ivo van der Linden in the BMW, out front at the moment. You can just see in the background another one of the BMWs in the AM category just behind. So yeah, these guys are already up to about 13th position. But I do believe if I'm basing this on the World Series Endurance Championship and how they score points there. I'm presuming the Pro and Am cars score points separately. So I think Van der Linden and Urenga will both score 40 points for their respective championship, if this was a normal round, of course. You're not scoring any points today, wherever you finish. But yeah, I do believe that you will get the full 40 points as an AM driver, wherever you finish in the overall. But the demise of some of the Pro cars has meant that these guys will be knocking on the door of a top 10 by the end of this, and certainly in the second race when we've got the reverse grid, they will be. And Thomas Cope has gone around at turn 6.
You jinxed them, Ewan. Oh, that's dodgy. That is really, really dodgy. There's a massive gaggle of cars. The Ford GT as well, funneling his way through. But yeah, that is an unfortunate mistake from Thomas Cope. Again, as you said, he's probably the more likely one to actually make that mistake. And I think we're going to have a look to see what happened. Was it by himself? But either way, that rejoin was very, very close to an absolute massive disaster. Of course, he has got the pace maybe to recover from it. He has got a nice pack of cars in front, but it all depends on how well he can get back into rhythm. And yeah, it was just slightly too wide, and yeah, that rear end was just like, nah, not going to cooperate at all. And at that point, you really are a passenger.
He's hit the concrete wall there as well, pretty hard, so there might be a bit of damage, but yeah, not the best rejoin we've ever seen from Thomas Cope there. He's down to 9th position. And everybody moves up. Harry Wills has managed to find himself from the back part of the top 10 into 3rd place now. Yeah, I don't know how he's managed that, but either way, he's in that 3rd place now. Thomas Dandridge has moved up into 2nd. So yeah, this is by far the closest fight up towards the front of the field. Cope just on the back of this little bit of a train that is starting to form. It's starting all at Yuri Matchison. Liam Mahern trying to get away from them at the moment, but got caught by 7/10 of a second on that last lap. If we look at Stuart Reynolds leaving the pit lane here, what kind of issues has he had on his way out? Well, I think he's left the pit lane there, realised that he possibly might have cleared the meatball flag and still realised there's still damage on that car, so unfortunately it's a bit of a disaster for Reynolds, who was running inside the top 5 earlier on.
Yeah, of course, and they don't get fast repairs in this series either, so if you do get damage, you do have to sit and wait for the entire thing as Liam Ahern gets past Harry Wills for the podium place, and that wasn't particularly hard fought there from Harry Wills. I think we're going to see the tail end of this battle, as well as Matchison also wants to get involved, potentially. Indeed he does, and Harry Wills, I think, has been mugged off 2 places in the same amount of corners, because there is a massive pack. You do have to settle into rhythm. Thomas Cope trying to pick off the first of his targets, unfortunately able to get past Patterman on that occasion. But yeah, again, it's all about rhythm, and in a pack this big, if you get overtaken by one, chances are the car behind, or even cars behind, might want to be able to wedge that gap open a little bit more and force their way through too.
I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but this is exactly how. Well, very wide through turn 3 and into the wall. Oh, a scrape along the concrete on the left-hand side, and that was a mistake all on his own. He lost out down the straight on his 3rd place, and then lost his fourth at the corner at the bottom of the hill there, turn 5, bizarrely. This is what happened to Dominic Goodsell earlier on, and there's a hit into the tyre wall as well. A lot of people losing it on the rear on the exit of corners here.
Yeah, absolutely. And but well, that was very well saved from Harry Wills. It must be said we're seeing a fight here back in the AM category for 26th place overall between Dean Timms and McEwen behind. But yeah, that was well hard from Wills, but just goes to show that Road America certainly is a challenging circuit. You know, it's not like one of these the more modern circuits where it's an abundance of tarmac runoff. You can see down this flat out section towards the tail end of the circuit, it is just, you know, the track to the left, then grass, and this is Debova getting past in the Ferrari on the inside. Bit of contact, and yeah, these GTs really are sensitive, aren't they?
Yeah, another incident into turn 1. So Navarro Debova losing out there as through well, back to the pro cars we go again, because Thomas Cope is back up into 8th position with Michael Patterman just in 9th, dropping down to 9th in the very final few minutes of this race. It looks like we are going to complete 10 laps in this one. Next lap is going to be the final one of this race, and then the first of the races are going to be over. We're going to have a reverse grid, and then they'll be back at it again. These two are almost going at it again. Michael Patterman looking to the inside, but couldn't make that work on Thomas Cope. Yuri Matchison, I think, got through on Liam Ahern there into 3rd place, further up at the order from these guys. There they go through the bottom of his shot at the moment, and Nathan Bass in the Ford has managed to get up into 7th after starting outside the top 10. So a good fight between everybody going at the moment. Taylor Lane under pressure down the inside for Ethan Bass, but he couldn't make it work there. This is very close.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethan Bass doing a fantastic job in that Ford GT. Of course, Thomas Cope might get onto the back of this fight very soon. Of course, he is running out of time. Only probably, yeah, I think this might actually be the penultimate lap. Potentially, we're going to see what happens to Rebaldus. Again, unfortunate day for the McLaren coming through. Again, just losing it under braking. I think relying a little bit too much on the weight transfer. And if you try brake a little bit too much, that rear end will lock and it will very much go around on you quite easily. But yeah, once again, back up to the front and Thomas Cope on the back of this train. There is quite a few cars for him to pick off. He has got the pace to, but yeah, he is running out of time to get those moves done.
Yeah, he is. As we go up towards the final lap at the moment, Alex Urenga starts it right now. Through the final corner they go again, and onto the front straight. Matchison, can he hold on to that 3rd place? This is Alex Urenga a lot further up from these guys. He's in a world of his own almost. He's got a 15-second lead, but Matchison's only got less than a second. Harry Wills is back up to 4th, ahead of Liam Ahern as they all go across the line. Here they are. Harry Wills up into 4th, trying to get back that 3rd position again, but Matchison puts in a 5.4 there to really get away. As Liam Ahern gets a good run through turn 1, doesn't decide to go for that dive at 3, but will he decide to finally put all his chips on the table at turn 5 here and go for the move? It's the pair of the new Mercedes running at 4 and 5 at the moment. Liam Ahern getting that slipstream from his fellow car and tries to go down the inside. He pokes his nose and he is late on the brakes. Downhill, tricky braking zone. He nearly goes sailing into the side of Harry Wills, but the two of them remain clear, and they do indeed go side by side up the hill, over the crest and through turn 6 as well. Very late on the brakes from Harry Wills, and that's a great defence, although a little bit too good. He goes wide through turn 6 on the outside line, but he does get the inside for 7, and so he'll hold on as all hell breaks loose behind.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic fight between these guys. Harry Wills just about hanging on, taking a lot of risk on the outside there, but it paying off dividends for him as Liam Ahern just gives him a wide berth. Great mutual respect between the two, and yeah, of course, Ethan Bass, Taylor Lane trying to capitalise as best they can off it. Not quite close enough in order to do so. But yeah, this gaggle of cars just goes to show how, a massive group of cars can certainly bring about some fantastic racing. And yeah, Ethan Bass in that Ford GT getting right into the mix.
Really is. Oh, as Thomas Cope goes very wide through the kink there, that's the place you do not want to be putting wheels on the grass, as we're looking down the inside, possibly with Liam Ahern, but it's Alex Urenga up front who's going to take the flag, and the first race of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship on the press day at least goes to Alex Urenga. Behind, who knows who's going to finish in 4th position, because Harry Wills has got it for the moment. Ethan Bass in the wall, into the concrete he goes. Wills goes wide, and Liam Ahern's going to get it as Thomas Cope and Taylor Lane both make contact, and they go into the wall out the final corner. but it is going to be Liam Ahern who gets that 4th place. Michael Patterman might get in the top 5 here. It's a photo finish for 5th, and Patterman does get that place. Harry Wills drops out of the top 5 on that final lap. 2 minute 10 is about 5 seconds off the pace. That's how hard those guys were battling on that final lap.
That was absolutely chaotic, riveting, and very much exciting. What a way to kick off the evening with that race. But yeah, that was unfortunate times for Thomas Cope, who fell into the right wars a couple of times in that race. Ivo van der Linden will come across the line to win the AM category as well. But yeah, overall, that pack of cars, that was always pretty much inevitable, it has to be said. But for the most part, great respect between all of them. And yeah, that arguably was inevitable. Unfortunately, that did end in tears. And that's the thing, you know, there's no stakes on the line tonight, no points, no championship. It's just about getting used to things and how it works. So yeah, they kept it nice and clean. But of course, those moves, you know, there's nothing at stake. You might as well send it for a bit of fun.
That's exactly what happened in the end. As we see the AM guys go over the line right now, it is Ivo van der Linden who takes the win. Of a very close field in the end, 1.7 seconds roughly between those guys. I can tell you as well that 32 cars got to the line. I think in the end a lot of long damage repairs for the likes of Sean Campbell, Stuart Reynolds, etc. We did see where's he finished though, is the question. I can't find him in the field. Either way, Sean Campbell clashed with somebody whose name escapes me at the moment, and I can't find where they finished, but they certainly did do somewhere up and down the order. But either way, there is your first race of the press day, at least in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship in Season 3. And this is going to be a great season indeed. If that pro battle, particularly towards the end, is anything to go by, it's going to be enthralling stuff. But yeah, we're starting off the season next week, of course, at Le Mans, which is going to be a real difficulty for everybody, because there's that long Mulsanne straight, of course, to contend with. I'll just check that we are doing the full layout and not the Bugatti circuit. Yeah, I think we are doing the full layout. So yeah, we look forward to that. But Alex Urenga has very much enjoyed his evening so far. Just under a 16-second advantage over Thomas Dandridge. Yuri Matchison managed to get away from that fight and finish third. Liam Ahern, in the end, did get that 4th place. It was so fiercely fought over. Michael Patterman got that 5th place by only 4 thousandths of a second. Harry Wills at the expense of that one. Felix Pael, we didn't see him much throughout the day, but he picked up a load of places at the end there. Dion Phillips, Ethan Bass and Taylor Lane round out your top 10, with Thomas Cope somehow finishing outside the top 10 in the end. So did Albin Schellberg, who clashed with Sean Campbell, who finished 1 place behind him. Sean Reynolds was caught up in that as well. Daniel Taylor, as well as a few others, caught up in incidents and didn't finish at that opening race. In the AM category, it was Ivo van der Linden who managed to take the win there ahead of Werner Ice. Then Ashraf El Haddad finishing in the top 3. Thomas Pugh running him all the way, but finished 4th in the end, ahead of Didier D as well in the 5th place. Stefan Schuster, Simon Dodd, David Commando, Jeremy Dabova, who we did see have a bit of a spin around along the way. Kurt Hau Jensen as well, rounding out your top 10 with Dean Timms just outside. A lot of different drivers to look down as well on throughout. There they all are indeed. As I mentioned, 37 cars took the start of that race there. There was a split between the pros and the AMs in terms of when they took the flag there. I don't think we're going to see the same thing again throughout the second race. I do believe that the full grid reverse does mean everybody in the overall and not just in the class. Yeah, we look forward to that in a few moments' time. But there's a bit more time in that race to maybe make up a few positions. But for now, Zach, we've got a bit of time really. But yeah, great opening race to that one. Road America, I have to say, it's not always my favourite in terms of racing, especially in GT3s, but it really did produce there, especially towards the end.
Yeah, certainly did deliver. And yeah, well, that was a great way to kick off the season. Of course, we didn't get much of a fight for P1 in either category because it was very much a dominant affair for Urenga. But yeah, a little bit further back amongst the midfield, it really was a fight all the way through. And now we have 55 minutes where we flip the entire grid on its head. And of course, we have those pro guys battling through the AMs. How well can they hang on? Will they want to hang on, etc., etc.? But yeah, that will certainly see the likes of Urenga actually really have to get his hands dirty, get get into the mix, make some overtakes, because yeah, we didn't see much of it in that one, and I'd like to see what he can do.
Yeah, it would be good. Obviously, I've commentated on Urenga quite a lot before. Actually, I won't say what series, but either way, in another series where there is a reverse grid format for the top 20, so it's not quite the top all of the drivers, but it is quite a lot. And if you do end up towards the front, then obviously you're going to find yourself in a bit of trouble. But yeah, it's a challenge that Urenga will have to overcome in a few moments' time. While we're waiting, though, we will just throw to a quick break. We'll be back, though, with the second race here for the press day at the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship in Season 3. Welcome back to Road America for the press day in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship for Season 3. We've already had our first sprint race of the day. It's now time for a little bit of a longer race and a reverse grid as well. My name's Ian O'Leary. I'll be alongside Zach Sweeney once again for this race here tonight. And Zach, we had a great first race, great opener, but it's about to get, I feel like a lot more hectic in this second one. Longer race, but reverse grid.
Yeah, well, so certainly be interesting. So if you are only now just joining us, you certainly have joined at the perfect time because, yeah, as we saw in the first race, that was set on qualifying order. That's where, you know, where you'd expect the natural pecking order to be, and we did still have a crazy race. Now we have an entire grid flip on its head. Of course, we have two categories, the pros and the AMs. The AMs, of course, naturally will finish below the pros in the first race, which means they'll start ahead of the pros in this second race. It's slightly longer. There's a massive AM field for the pros to get through. So yeah, patience and picking your way through should certainly play dividends for them. But yeah, overall, it should be a fairly interesting race, to say the least. And of course, we've got 55 minutes of it on the clock. So yeah, should certainly be one to look forward to.
Sure, there's a few more details about where we are here today. Fairly long circuit around here, just over 2 minutes in terms of the lap times. 33 Celsius in terms of the temperature. I hope that's track temperature, not air, because otherwise the track's going to be roasting. But either way, it is very warm. It's quite warm here in England at the minute as well, as Zach was just saying to me in the break. Even though it's approaching 10 o'clock, it's sweating a little bit. There are the temperatures. Again, track temperature 33 degrees. It is indeed track temperature. Air temperature at 29, which is quite toasty. But it is getting towards the evening in terms of the start time for this race. All of the in-game times will be set to the same, if you see what I mean. All the races are going to start at the same in-game time throughout this season. So there's going to be, well, I'll say that apart from Daytona, we're going to have a night race finale starting. Well, the first race is going to be held at midnight in-game, and the second one at 1 a.m. Thankfully, the drivers don't have to wake up at those times in real life. It will just be driving in the dark for them. But it's going to be a good finale at Daytona. It's going to be a great opener at Le Mans as well. That is going to be an interesting circuit. But before we get into any of that, we've got a whole formation up. So hopefully we'll be able to read out a few more of these drivers as we look through up and down the grid here. Because I know we've rushed through it a little bit earlier on. Thomas Reiter is going to be on the pole position for this particular race. It's going to be Christian Furs in the second position. Daniel Taylor and Stuart Reynolds are going to be sharing the second row together. Watch out for the likes of Reynolds, Campbell and Kjellberg, who will be starting up towards the front in this reverse grid despite having good pace. Same applies to Thomas Cope, really. Taylor Lane as well. Then we've got Ethan Bass, Dion Phillips, Felix Pearl, Harry Willis, Michael Patterman, Liam Ahern, Yuri Magison, Thomas Dandridge, and Alex Urenga to round out your pro drivers. And then we get the AMs, starting with Dominic Goodsell. Then we've got Victor Chamorro, who we saw go off at Canada Corner at last race. Navarro Dabova, who had his issues of his own. Jarmo Steismannen. Also, Jasper Charks will be 22nd, ahead of Timo Mikion. And then Dirk Boutz will be 24th. 25th position is going to be Bastian Wilbotus, and then it's going to be Gus Franken. Dean Timms is going to be starting alongside Kurt Jensen, then Jeremy Dabova alongside David Camano. That is going to be the top 30. Then Simon Dodd and Stefan Schuster on the next row. Diede De Vlaminck will be 33rd, ahead of Thomas Pugh. Ashraf Al Haddad will be 35th, ahead of Werner S. And the final man on the grid, Ivo van der Linden, will be rounding out your 37 cars. So the pro cars have been reversed. They've still been put in front of the AMs. So thankfully they don't have to go through all of the AMs. However, it has shaken up the grid even so. Watching out though, especially here, Zach, for the likes of Reynolds, Campbell and Kjellberg, because they're all starting inside the top 6. And they were all very quick in the first race.
Of course, that is going to be their saving grace over the course of this season. Not just those three, of course, the grid as a whole, because, yeah, if things go slightly sour in the first race, you can always recover in the second race. And as you say, they did show some fantastic pace. So they have a much easier job than the likes of Urenga at the back. And they have significantly less cars to get through. Of course, that's not a done deal. They still have to do the work, and they still might get caught up in traffic. And if Urenga has the pace, to sort of car through the field and get onto the back of them, still a possibility for those two to end up in a tight fight. And of course, with plenty of time on the board for them to get those moves done as well, should certainly be very, very interesting indeed. But that's what we love about reverse grids. They always bring about a bit of spice. It's not always going to be the fastest ones at the back and not always going to be the slowest ones at the front, because as racing shows, it's not always an ideal world. But yeah, let's see if the likes of Furs and Reiter want to fight particularly hard for the top two places. Will they just sort of cut their losses and try and play it safe?
Well, let's see. It's all a bit of a conundrum. Here's the class split, as you can see. The AM drivers are staying further away from the pros. I think that worked quite well. I know we didn't have a incident in the pro category actually on the opening lap, really. It was a very clean opening lap, but if there is accidents at the very front, then there's 37 cars to pile in. Thankfully this way, there are not quite so many to pile in, even though there are still a good 20 of the AM cars here. As we look at the starting grid again, there they all are. They are indeed split up between Pro and AM. Dominic Goodsell and Victor Chamorro are going to be the opening two in the AM category there, as you can see. But the leading drivers now are not far away from making their way around Canada Corner and getting themselves set for the start of this race. It's going to be Thomas Reiter versus Christian Furs on the front row. It's going to be a very exciting race, but a very hectic one, I feel, as well.
Yeah, certainly so. They haven't got long left of the formation lap, so they've just got to make sure they get those tyres and brakes up to temperature. Get themselves ready as well, because they have got 55 minutes of racing action to go through, and of course the likes of Urenga and Matchison and a little bit further back. They've got to prepare themselves, get themselves into that mindset, and just try and settle into a rhythm pretty quickly. Those drivers that can get into rhythm quickly will certainly reap the rewards today.
They will indeed. Through the final corner then, for Thomas Reiter, he is going to be... It's the pole sitter, if you like. He's certainly going to be in control of the field as they run up towards the line for the first longer race here of the press day at the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship EU. Coming up towards the line over the rise there. It was a very early jump from Alex Urenga last time around. Will it be a bit of a later one? Well, not really. Thomas Reiter decides to step on it almost immediately, and first it just tucks in behind. Daniel Taylor also, with Stuart Reynolds in that Lamborghini protecting his fourth position from Sean Campbell, who makes his way around the outside, tries to go all the way round in the Porsche, a little bit wide from him, and so he's going to be under attack now from Albin Schellberg. The two of them went into contact going down in towards turn one last race, of course, so no love lost there, but they all make it through rather nicely. The opening few corners are very clean indeed. Further back there's a little bit of battling, but up front it's nice and single file and nice and clean as well.
Yeah, absolutely a great start from Urenga, up 4 places on this opening lap. Looking a bit further back in the AM category, you can see Chamorro and De Boiver going side by side as Goodsell holds a fairly comfortable lead at the moment. Still side by side between second and third as Chamorro trying to consolidate second place on the run towards the heavy braking zone here at turn 5. De Boiver, I think, just sitting station, potentially not actually looking back to the left-hand side, going to try and be braver on the brakes, get that move done, but look at how late Chamorro is under brakes, doesn't get it stopped, or does he? Down the inside, but I think just a little bit too ambitious. Goodsell saw it coming back underneath him, and well, that certainly was an accident. I think it might have caused a little bit of a calamity further back, and that is a huge crash to start this race.
It's caused a chain reaction, I'm afraid to say, and there's so many cars involved, so many of the leaders quite possibly as well. There's Thibaut McKeown, who's struggling to get going again. That McLaren can't even go straight anymore, my goodness me. There's even more crashing, bumping and banging going on as well. Jensen, De Vlaminck as well have both had to go back to the pit lane. Big Boulders, he was the McLaren. This is all kicked off by Chamorro, who's just trying to defend his place here, but misses his braking point catastrophically. Goes off the road. He tries to rejoin. Can we put this on the rejoin? It looks like we might have to. Well, I'm starting to wondering where else he's supposed to go here. 57 cuts across the Porsche to try not to go into the back of the Mercedes. The two of them go into the concrete and they rebound off the wall into De Bolders. There he is, spinning around. The Ferrari spins in sympathy and actually gets away with it nearly. And then it all just happens towards the left-hand side of his screen as well, off camera there. It is all a bit of a mess. Not sure if we can put it all on the rejoin though. It's just a multitude of things really.
Of course, the choral, cause of that incident was the initial dive bomb from Chamorro there. But yeah, that rejoin, not really much he could have done. Is there something else happening a little bit further up? Just tagged round again Was a BMW, and again, there's a lot of cars coming through. You have to just stay stationary and hope no one hits you, because moving probably is one of the worst things you can do. Tia McEwen still trying to nurse that car back as we see a fight for the race lead potentially here in Pro, or it's a fight for second place as well. As first looking on the inside of Stuart Reynolds, trying to consolidate second place, but I think it was a done deal for that Lamborghini, who gets himself up into second place. But yeah, a lot of action to kick off this race.
It was Harry Wills, by the way, who got into the back of Taylor Lane there and spun him around, as Daniel Taylor is getting steamrolled here. Thomas Cope is down his inside, he's got through there, and so has Sean Campbell now as well. Inside the top 5, Kjellberg trying to go down the inside zone. He's back up to 6th position, back to where he started in this race. Thomas Cope has had a great start to this one, up to 4th already from a little bit lower down where he was before. Christian Furs is his next victim, or he's hoping so anyway. Up towards the kink at the moment, and we ride on board with the Lamborghini. It's going to give us a great indication of just the commitment you need through the kink. Oh, Thomas Cope with everything on the line there, and maybe a little bit more, as he nearly lost the car through the fastest corner on the circuit.
You said they need commitment. He certainly showed a bit of commitment, and well, the car probably wasn't quite up to scratch with the amount of commitment he wanted to show. As Christian Furs goes a little bit wide, that's going to open the door for Thomas Cope, potentially Sean Campbell as well, to look up the inside potentially of the final corner. You see pushing the limits of the circuit to the inside of the final corner goes Campbell, and Furs, a small mistake might see him lose a couple of places. Kjellberg as well is going to force that gap open just a little bit more as they run down the pit straight once again. And yeah, Kjellberg, that's the thing, as I was saying in the first race, you are very, very closely packed together. As soon as you make a mistake, one car goes through, and then everyone just tries to pry that gap open, and that's exactly what's happened there. Clumsy mistake from Furs.
It's so close further back there, and he's still under pressure as Dirk Bouts is getting underway again from a spin by the looks of things. But yeah, a lot of pressure being heaped upon Christian Furs, excuse me, at the moment. Kjellberg has managed to get his way through. Daniel Taylor trying to do the same. This is what happened to Dirk Bouts, though. Got hit by one of his fellow Porsches there, and just had to get away once again from that little half spin that has ended up costing him quite a lot of time in the end. You can see the amount of AM cars in the pit lane, though. 29 cars haven't been in the pit lane yet so far this race, so 8 of them did go in after that opening lap shenanigan. Is that a word? Anyway, it is now. Yeah, it was. Yeah, there we are. Unfortunately, 8 cars in the pit lane after all of that, as we go up to Stuart Reynolds. I said watch out for him at the start of this one. Well, he's certainly been laying down a marker. 5 minutes into this one, and he's already applying pressure for the lead.
Doing a great job is the Lamborghini, closing in the Audi of Thomas Reiter there just in front. The gap very, very close. He'll certainly be getting a whiff of that slipstream, and a long flat out section now as they go through this long right-hander towards this long flat out section to round off that. Oh, very sideways from Stuart Reynolds there. That was very close. I think he just had to get on the brakes a little bit, collect himself, but that certainly would have been a heart in the mouth moment. He's lost a little bit of momentum, not too much. That gap's still under a second, but certainly less than ideal. His last lap over around about 7/10 of a lap, 7/10 quicker than Thomas Reiter. As a little bit further back, you can see Campbell trying to put some pressure on Cope, but yeah, Reynolds certainly has the pace. Might need to rein it in a little bit though to prevent some more mistakes like that creeping in.
Campbell gets through on Cope then, and they do lose out on a little bit of pace there. The 3 of them close in. Campbell, Cope and Kjellberg all very close together now as they run out of the final corner. There they are. The Mercedes here trying to maybe go through on Cope as well, as he's just lost a bit of momentum, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like the Lamborghini might try with that straight line speed to go through again. Did notice last race that Sean Campbell wasn't the fastest car in a straight line, and I think that's becoming apparent here. Thomas Cope just bump drafting him almost down the straight here. He knows that Stuart Reynolds, if he's allowed too much of a gap here, he will be able to go away with this race, and he doesn't want to let that happen, although he decides to poke his nose at turn 3 instead, which is a strange decision. Though he might go for it now at turn 5. It's a nice run from the Lamborghini anyway, and the Porsche is struggling for straight line speed by the looks of things. The Mercedes, the new car, certainly not struggling for that straight line performance. Looking on board at the moment with Kjellberg, might even try another 3 wide moment. I'm sure he wants to after the way the last one ended. Here he goes again nearly. Thomas Cope pushes Sean Campbell into the braking zone. I'm pretty sure he's trying to make sure that this kind of race all comes together, because as I mentioned, can't let Stuart Reynolds get too far away, but he's really caught in 2 minds whether to overtake Campbell or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he's in the second place in this train for third place. Of course, he has to look forwards and backwards because, yeah, Kjellberg in this Mercedes certainly does look feisty, has proven himself to be rather feisty as we saw in the first race. But of course, they can rely a little bit. They can fight just a touch, but yeah, Campbell is getting away just a little bit from Thomas Cope. But if Reynolds and Reiter start battling, that's going to bring all of them back straight into the mix. As we see, is that Dodd going slowly potentially? I think a little bit, yeah, just for second place is. Yeah, Timms gets in front. Well, is in front of him. He was the one going slowly. Dodd trying to put some pressure on, but yeah, Sassamonian at the moment leading in the AMS fairly comfortably as well. And that's the thing with reverse grids. As soon as you get a quick guy out in front, it is usually sort of a runaway affair.
That can indeed happen as Harry Wills is off the road there. Oh, in the background there he is as side by side goes on. How have Thomas Cope and Albin Kjellberg managed to find themselves here? Christian Furs has managed to get back in front of them again. What has happened there between those two? Alex Urenga gets through on Kjellberg now, who's really, Urenga really making great progress, and the two run side by side now with a bit of slipstream for Kjellberg. You can see him on the outside line, and there they are. Ethan Bass watches on from behind in the Ford, but the slipstream will prevail for the Mercedes. Kjellberg up to 6th position with Urenga down to 7th as car makes it 3 wide coming out the pit lane. Urenga down is inside. He made sure of that move, although didn't give a lot of room on the exit of turn 1. Just about got away with that move for it to be legal enough, and he is up to 6th place already as we look what happened between the three of them. It was Kjellberg down the inside of Cope, and the two of them just run exceptionally slowly out of Canada corner.
Yeah, and that just sort of concertinated everyone back into it. Brought Urenga right into the fight with a fantastic move. You see Harry Wills getting it all sorts of wrong to the inside. And yeah, well, as soon as you hit that gravel, you really are a passenger. Did really well not to go straight into the barrier, in all fairness to him. I think that's the second time we've seen a fantastic save from Harry Wills. But yeah, that's brought Urenga into the top 6. Well and truly in this fight as well, with just over 40 minutes of this race to go. He certainly has sights potentially of maybe a double victory, but yeah, certainly still has got a lot of work. Thomas Reiter still under pressure from Stuart Reynolds just behind, still certainly there in tow. Urenga getting himself into the top 5 ahead of Furtz as well. But yeah, these guys, as soon as one of them fight, you lose a lot of time. We saw that in race 1, how they lost 5 seconds in one lap fighting. You lose a lot of time fighting, and that's going to be something they're going to have to play into their minds.
Yeah, must be honest, I'm surprised Reiter has been able to hold on for this long, but he is showing decent pace at the moment to keep in this position. So he holds on to the lead for the moment, but Stuart Reynolds and Sean Campbell are not too far away, as that's Christian Furs in the wall at the kink. Not sure how that happened, but he was in a battle with Alex Urenga, and Albin Kjellberg was not too far away either, as Dandridge just gets it in front of the cars at the minute. This is Urenga running wide. Now this is all the start of it. He pulls back to the inside, and it allows Kjellberg to head down the inside. There's contact straight into the wall for Furs. He goes straight back to the pits. I mean, hard to call that one, really.
It is one of those things where you go for the move, but a corner like that where you do have to be quite committed, especially in these GTs that don't have all the downforce in the world. As you see, De Boiver going in towards turn 5, gets tagged on the inside by the BMW, and yeah, was trying to take his normal race line. Probably could have given a bit more room, just thinking of long game, but at the end of the day, that probably was quite an ambitious move from the BMW. As we see Christian Furs in the pit lane, and yeah, probably not going to take much further participation in this race. But yeah, that is just one of those unfortunate incidents. Was on the outside of probably one of the fastest corners on the circuit, and 9 times out of 10 that really isn't going to end well.
Also, Albin Kjellberg has had to come into the pit lane again early here. If we are indeed 50% limited in terms of the amount you can fill up in this race, then he will certainly be struggling to get it to the end on one stop here. But it's Thomas Reiter who still leads. Stuart Reynolds just behind, and we go on board now with the Lamborghini. Got caught up in the incident with Kjellberg down at turn 1 last race. John Campbell just in 3rd behind here was caught up in that as well. They run towards the carousel right now, and you feel it's a matter of time for the Audi really, because Reynolds has looked a bit quicker than him through the first 12 minutes of this race.
Yeah, looking mightily close, and is eyeing up that move, of course, is Stuart Reynolds, but as you say, certainly a matter of when, as a matter of if, as Reiter runs a little bit wide through the kink, could open the door for Reynolds to have a bit of a look, backing off just a little bit, certainly still tucking into the slipstream, looking left, looking right, doesn't really know where to go, going to settle with Wright, be committed under brakes, does he get it stopped? Not quite. Wright going to come right back underneath him, here comes Sean Campbell as well, going to get himself into the mix, right up into second place. This now has become a 3-horse race for the race leader. A clumsy mistake from Reynolds, probably eyed up a move a little bit too early, probably could have played the patient game, and well, he's certainly paid the consequences for it, and is back down in third place as Harry Wills has had a bit of an off, I think, here with Pale.
Yeah, Felix Pale has been hit, I think, here by Wills. By the way, he's redressing the position there. See, gets a little bit on the grass on the way in, and he knows it from far out. He does get into the back of the Audi that goes into the wall, and he does indeed let the Audi go in front there, but they go down the straight. Not too much to say as down the inside goes Sean Campbell. He makes his way through at turn 1. Thomas Reiter has to go to the outside and won't be able to get that position, or keep that position I should say, at race leading place, but the battle's still going to be on towards turn 5. The three of them very close together. Stuart Reynolds, where does he fit into this one? Does he go down the middle, try an inside move? Does he even bother making this one free wide? He won't. Sean Campbell is going to stay on the inside line here and runs a little bit wide, but it should be all fine for him. Sean Campbell takes the lead then and will attempt to run away with this race now.
Yeah, he's certainly going to try to, and the important thing for Reynolds is to get past Reiter and get onto the back of Campbell very, very quickly. Back to the GT3 AM category, it's Dodd that leads Tim and Sastmoinen in P3. They'll had P4 and Goodsell rounding off the top 5. It hasn't been quite as close or quite as chaotic in the AMs, minus that start shenanigan a little bit earlier on, and we're going to see what happened to Simon Dodd in the Ferrari. He has a Mercedes that goes off in front, and that sort of just says, all right, in a little while, and inherits the race league pretty much for free there, Ewan.
Yeah, pretty much. It was a mistake, an unforced error, really. The looks of things, and Mercedes drops down to third place. This is it from on board, just outbraking, completely unforced error, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, we've seen that corner be the breeder incidents over the course of the last 2 races. A lot of people getting it wrong under brakes. And unfortunately for the previous race leader, just got it a little bit too wrong. And that's the thing, that consistency, especially around a circuit like Road America, will certainly pay dividends towards the over the course of a long race. Because, yes, while it is relatively a sprint race, 50 minutes is a longish time. As we've got a massive confuffle here for second place. We see Reiter, Reynolds and Cope potentially 3 abreast. Cope on the inside, you can see Reiter there trying to hang on. Reynolds sandwiched in the middle. Surely this is not going to end well, just about managing to funnel their way through, and I think that's Urenga also trying to get onto the back of this fight, but that was well held from Cope there. Reynolds just having to sit station in P3, and Reiter falling back a little bit in this train, but yeah, Cope doing absolute massive strides forward for his chance in this race.
Yeah, I just wonder whether Sean Campbell's off and away with this race now, though. I know he's only a few car lengths, but it might be all he needs. 3 wide moment, though. Cope on the inside here. Reiter pinned up towards the outside, and Stuart Reynolds didn't really want any part of that because the last 3 wide he saw, it ended up in a little bit of demise for him as he goes down the inside again of Reiter there at the top of the hill. Into turn 6, the 2 of them make slight contact, and he is struggling to get through on Thomas Reiter. I thought he was going to be able to get through relatively easily, get that lead and try and run away, but that has not happened as Michael Patterman is recovering here from a bit of an error.
Yeah, absolutely. That is unfortunate for Reynolds, who is struggling because he does certainly have the pace to at least give Cope and Campbell a bit of a race. Going to see what happened to Patterman. Has Ethan Bass for company just behind, and yeah, that was an unforced error in turn 5, claiming yet another victim. Back to this 3-way fight for P3. Thomas Reiter still heads the train with Reynolds and Urenga in hot pursuit. Urenga using his experience, of course, won in race 1, just trying to pick his way through this field as Reynolds looks to the left-hand side. It'll be the long way round. Reiter holds off the inside. Is Reynolds going to try and go underneath him? We've seen it happen before. Does get the drive towards the final couple of corners. Unfortunately for him, unable really to get the drive. But it's 2 Lamborghinis trying to get past the Audi, and well, they are working together rather nicely. But yeah, that Audi is certainly a lot wider than Reynolds would like it to be.
I don't know why he's finding this quite so difficult, I must be honest, but he is at the moment and struggling to get up into third place. He's now going to be the opportunity with race 1 winner Alex Urenga just behind him now. Look at a replay a little bit further down with Daniel Taylor into Canada corner. Late on the brakes, and it's a spin on his own indeed in the board. Manages to get off the racing line, but it's a painful 3-point turn for the 13, and he gets back going again, but drops down to 14th place, and the last running car, the last car still in the race in the pro category. Meanwhile, got onto the straight again, and Reiter is still in this third place. Alex Urenga and Stuart Reynolds both applying the pressure onto the grass slightly, looking to the inside line. Once again, deep under brakes. Oh, it's contact with Reiter for Urenga as well, but Reynolds finally has sealed the deal. That took a bit longer than it should have done maybe, but eventually he makes that move stick, and Urenga didn't miss a beat either going through as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. I won't be particularly too happy with that one, but Reynolds certainly did get his elbows out to force his way through. Urenga doing all the right things there, just using the gap that Reynolds opened, and now he's playing the patient game. He certainly has the pace to get past these guys and run away with it, but in doing so has lost a couple of seconds to the likes of Cope and Campbell, P1 and P2, who are the guys Urenga is certainly going to want to go and fight, and well, hopefully for Urenga's case, he can clear Reynolds a lot quicker than Reynolds clears Reiter, but yeah, Urenga using all of experience to good measure here, and yeah, playing the patient game, doing everything he needs to do, finding the gap, picking his way through, but yeah, Reynolds was very committed on the brakes towards T5 there. Luckily for him, it didn't end in tears.
Yeah, luckily for everybody really, we're all very close. The two Lamborghinis try and get away now from the Audi. As what's happened here? Somebody out the race. It's Dion Phillips goes back to the pit lane. Has had an issue somewhere, and this is what's happened. It's at the kink, and my goodness me, that's a big hit on the wall. Ferrari, the second Ferrari we've seen off at that corner in this race. That was a big hit.
Yeah, oh, blimey, that is well. Yeah, that is a spinning Ferrari, and yeah, you can just see how nice in slow-mo as well. This is going to be fantastic to watch, just the pirouetting, dancing Ferrari. It's not quite the prancing horse, it's more so the dancing horse on this occasion, and well, that is certainly not the way that Dion Phillips would have wanted to end this race, but hey, yeah, we've seen how that corner can claim victims in this race, and yeah, that certainly is one more added to the tally. Stuart Reynolds still has Urenga for company, with Reiter just about hanging in touch with these two. Does Urenga think Reynolds has the pace to get onto the back of Cope and Campbell, or is he going to want to head this fight towards the front?
I think he's going to want to go through straight away here, and that's exactly what he is going to do. Down the inside on his fellow Lamborghini, and inside line is the one. He gets through without too much argument really from Reynolds. I think he knows that if he tucks in here with Urenga, he might be able to be dragged up towards those two leaders. At the moment, Sean Campbell leading this race after nearly 20 minutes, and Thomas Cope, who is in the second, about half an hour to go in the second race here in the press day of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship EU. This is season 3, of course, and just a bit of a warm-up for Le Mans next week when we get underway for real. It's going to be a real rude awakening for everybody when we're bearing down the Mulsanne Straight towards the first chicane. On the first lap of the season. It's going to be it's a very interesting place to start a season. I don't think I've ever seen a championship opener there before.
Yeah, no, certainly neither have I. And it is well, it's a great venue to go to. Of course, the prestige around that event is massive. Is Stuart Reynolds going to be eyeing up a move on Urenga? No, he's just going to sit back. Doesn't quite want the counter attack, and is going to try and work with Urenga to close up on to the front too. But yeah, Le Mans will certainly be an interesting turn of events. But if that race is anything like these two races that we've had this evening, it's certainly going to be one to look forward to. And well, that slipstream will be even more in effect. But that is Urenga heading into the pit lane. What is that for? Of course, they have a 17x limit before they get a drive-through. Has he reached that limit?
You get it even 25 in the second race because it's a bit longer. So I think this is the scheduled pit stop that he will have to make. Let's see if he does indeed stop in his box at all, or whether he just drives through. Still not. Yeah, now he goes into his box. So there he is, and taking on a bit of fuel. He's pitted at the earliest possible opportunity. As I mentioned earlier on, these cars are limited in terms of their fuel tank to 50% their normal capacity. I think he's realised that if he pits now, he will be able to get out in front of the AM guys, although I'm not sure he's right, because through come the AM leaders. Simon Dodd and 15 Tims go past. There they go through in your shot, and oh, he's going to be in a lot of AM traffic here. They don't have to get out of his way. They're not exactly lap cars. No, they're not fighting for the same battles and whatever, and some of them might be a bit nice to him, but they don't have to jump out of the way. And so that's going to be a difficulty for Urenga in this strategy, and he'll have a heavier car for more of the race than his rivals as well. But it's interesting to see a bit of a strategic call going on there from the race 1 winner.
Yeah, potentially going for an undercut, trying to get some clear air and close the gap to Cope and Campbell without the threat of Reynolds or Reiter. This is Sasta Moinen under pressure from the race 1 winner in the GT3 Pro category, trying to carve his way through, and Sasta Moinen might actually use him to try and get through on Van der Linden if that is what he wants to do. But yeah, Urenga needs to make quick work of these cars if he does want the strategy to work. But yeah, you have to say it was a risk and one that might not really pay off for him. But now he's got a little bit of clear air, a little bit of a gap towards the front couple of AM drivers, so he might be able to push, use a bit of pace. But yeah, it is one of those things that races can be won or lost in the pit lane, and for Urenga, he's got a lot of work in this final half hour of this race.
He really has, I'm afraid to say. But everybody else is going to have to make a pit stop as well, and you'd imagine it's going to creep into half an hour stage, maybe about 32 minutes they can probably go, but not much further than that really. Going to be a lot of pit stops between now and the end of this one. But I do think Urenga could have done with staying out there a little bit longer just to get out in front of these guys, so we wouldn't have had to overtake them out on the road. Meanwhile, other overtakes happening, or other battles at the very least. Taylor Lane trying to hold off Michael Patterman. Two drivers that have been around so far in this race. Taylor Lane at Canada Corner, due to Harry Wills, I think it was, and Michael Patterman, I can't remember who it was, but down at turn 5, but either way he was around earlier on in this race. Either way they're battling over 10th now. No change really as the sun begins to set here at Road America. The sun's certainly going down. It's not going to get dark by any means, but it is slightly getting that little bit darker out there about as we approach half distance in this race. It's calming down just a little bit.
Yeah, naturally you are going to get that field spread across the race, and of course with pit stops coming in, traffic and whatnot, you might see a couple more things spreading out just a little bit. Michael Patterman, looking to try and get past on lane down towards 10.5. Not quite close enough, but certainly eyeing up that move to get himself inside the top 10. And you always do aim for these little milestones. Of course, finishing the race is good in of itself. Then you're like, okay, top 10, that seems to be pretty reasonable. Top 5, 3, and of course then the win. But yeah, P11 versus P10. Just to say you got inside the top 10 certainly is nice, even if there aren't any points at stake this evening. It is always nice to get yourself into the mix and yeah, see where you are in the pecking order. Both of them haven't had the most fortunate in terms of races, how the things have gone, but hopefully they can give us a nice bit of battling, because in race 1 we certainly did rely on the midfield to give us some action.
We really did, and they provided for much of the race. It's very fast and furious 25 minutes. By the way, we in the rules it's a 25-minute race to start us off, which is what I was saying earlier on, but it turned out to be 20, so there we are. Not entirely sure which one's correct, but come back next week to find out, or indeed a bit later, of course. Let's not forget that here at Absolute Sim Racing, this is not the only broadcast of the evening. We've still got the press day for the US side of things coming your way. That will be starting in, oh goodness, 3.5 hours time or so. The US drivers will be, or at least that people on the western side of the world, if you want to look at the traditional world map, will be having a more ideal time zone for them, and that will be starting in about 3.5 hours time. So make sure you join us for that as we go back up to the battle for 5th position between Ethan Bass and Thomas Dandridge. Michael Patterman also comes in to the pit lane at the moment. This field is about to get very spread apart for the next 5 minutes as they all make pit stops. It's going to be very interesting to see where Campbell and Cope remain and where they come out in relation to Alex Urenga, who pitted so early.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully for Urenga's sake, he has now got a little bit of clear air versus the AM guys. But Campbell and Cope have kept each other honest, running at similar lap times. I think Thomas Cope has had a slight measure over Sean Campbell, who has led the race for a good portion of the last 26 minutes that we have been proceeding. Yeah, he hasn't certainly looked back at all, been very, very consistent compared to his best lap time. And yeah, well, it should be interesting. It could come down to strategy. Does Thomas Cope go a little bit longer? Does he go a little bit shorter? Try and get the undercut, try and get the overcut? undercut does all depend on where they come out in traffic, because that long am grid, they're probably postponing it as much as they possibly can, really, to avoid that traffic and avoid the problems that Urenga has found himself into.
Yeah, I do. Well, I haven't really been monitoring lap times too closely because it is difficult. As feel as Pierre is off the road. Taylor Lane has managed to get through on him. Urenga, well, he only matched Sean Campbell last time round, and Thomas Cope was quicker than him by nearly half a second. So let's see what the lap times are like for Campbell and Cope this time around. Over the line for Sean Campbell, it's 2 minute 4.8 and 2 minute 4.5 from Cope, both of which were just about matching, really. Alex Urenga in that one, as Thomas Dandridge comes into the pit lane, and the AM battle gets a whole lot more interesting as Simon Dodd and Dean Timms get close together with Alex Urenga just behind. This is the exact problem with it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to have to clear these guys very quickly. But, of course, they are locked in a fight for their race lead in their respective classes. Does Dean Timms not put up much of a fight over Urenga, who surely will have an easy time of getting through down this pit straight? But at the same time, he's in the slipstream of the Ferrari in front. Might want to eye up a move. But if he just lets Alex Urenga go through, he might be able to use Urenga as a battering ram of sorts. Not a litter on, of course, because that would be that would end pretty badly. But use him as the wedge to open the gap and find his way through into the race lead. As a couple of pit stops filter themselves out, Urenga is inside the top 9, but that's probably to be expected. But yeah, as long as the man in P2 can stay in touch, especially down towards turn 5, potentially there could be a move line up for him to get himself into the race lead. And these are the moments that can separate, some good drivers from great drivers, being able to capitalise off moments like this and really pick your moments well.
Not sure if he's got a slowdown or something there, but he's really lost a lot of pace down the straight there. And Alex Urenga does go to the inside now. A little bit of a early moment on the brakes there for Simon Dodd to just let him through, and he lets him have that position. Interestingly as well, Esraf El Haddad and Ivo van der Linden have both been making great progress through the field, and they're now 3rd and 4th in this race. So they are, like we're seeing in the pro category with some of the previous names getting back towards the front, we're seeing it in AM as well, as Thomas Pugh, who finished up towards the front in AM last race, makes his way out the pit lane as well. See where Alex Urenga is going to end up. That last lap was a 4 minute 0.3, a 2 minute 4.3, I should say. He's matching Campbell and Cope, but he's not really gaining any time of them. As Thomas Cope and Stuart Reynolds come in from the front of the race, this is really where the race is going to be won and lost. We're going to find out where Urenga comes out compared to these guys.
That is going to be a race against time for Urenga. He might be able to see on his relative whether they're in the pit lane or not. But, well, yeah, he's certainly going to be giving it his all, trying to get that undercut. And for Cope and Reynolds, just try have the smoothest pit stop they can, hit their marks, get onto, just get into the pit lane and go. And Campbell, now seeing that his main rivals are into the pit lane, needs to have some stellar in-laps because, the likes of Cope had some really good pace before the pit stop. So Sean Campbell is going to know that and try and open up the car just a little bit. This is the crucial bit now, as Cope is on the pit exit. Urenga's coming down the pit straight now. It's going to be quite close, actually. As you can see, Thomas Cope now leaving. Urenga's going to have the measure down the straight. They are potentially going to be side by side, but I think Urenga's got him. That is him up into P6, and is Cope as well behind the GT3 AM leader as well.
He is. That was not made up in the undercut there from Urenga. He didn't put out particularly blistering lap times compared to Cope. The real difference was made in the pit stop times. The Olympus Esports car, the Lamborghini, spent 4 seconds longer stationary than Alex Urenga's RSR Lamborghini spent stationary. That was where it was won and lost. If you see the gaps now, Cope would be a good couple of seconds up the road from where Urenga is as things stand at the moment. So that is really going to help Sean Campbell out as well, because he's not going to have so much pressure on him. And also, he's going to have a teammate behind him as well, which does help as you continue on with this race. That's really costly for Thomas Cope. I'm not entirely sure if he's just over-calculated there and he's accidentally brimmed his tank. Because, 4 seconds, I don't know what on earth he would have done. I mean, there's no damage on that car, to my knowledge, that he would have needed to repair. He might have taken the optionals, I suppose, but I'm not entirely sure. Either way, Sean Campbell comes in now, likely because he's run out of fuel. And we'll see if Urenga can pull this one off. But I think it can only happen if Campbell has an abnormally long stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And Campbell, that's going to be his absolute delight over the course of these last couple of laps. That his couple of his main rivals might have had a couple of strategical blunders, but yeah, for Cope, that is quite a shame. And he's still stuck behind the GT3 AM leader as well, not quite able to get through as Reiter and Bass inherit P1 and P2 provisionally. Of course, as when they do come into the pit lane, they will have to relinquish those positions. Urenga now coming through the final couple of corners and down the pit straight. It will be once again a race against time to see where Campbell is. He is still stationary. When is he now going to pull out of his pit lane? He is now. Short run to where the pit speed limiter is. Of course, he's going to have to get that car back up to speed. I think he has got the measure over Urenga, but it is very close on track between the two of them. There is Urenga there, and well, that is certainly a lot closer than it was before the pit stops. In fact, no, it's not actually. That is Taylor. Urenga's still quite a little bit far back.
He is quite far back there. You can see, well, it's exactly the same as before. Maybe even Campbell's stretched out a bit more of a margin, actually, because it's 5 seconds now rather than the 4 that it was previously. Daniel Taylor just wedged in between them, but he still needs to make a stop, as does Thomas Reiter, Ethan Bass, Harry Wills, and of course the two AM leaders of Simon Dodd and Dean Timms. They'll be looking over their shoulder at Van der Linden and El Haddad as well, because those two drivers are certainly coming at this stage, and they may well chance the overtake before long, but just wait and see. Just over 15 minutes remaining in this race, and Urenga's got a big job on his hands to catch his teammate. Although I still think they're going to be very pleased with an RSR 1-2. No matter about the team game, Campbell and Urenga are going to be very pleased with their drives today, because for Urenga will be a first and a second, which is very strong indeed. So we now look at the leading AM battle, which is going to be probably the primary entertainment for the rest of the race.
Could certainly be the case, because yeah, Dodd, Timms and Van der Linden very close, and Dodd goes very wide. Is that going to invite Timms maybe to go to the outside? Indeed it is. Has he lost a couple of places? No, he hasn't. Only down to second, but that is one of those mistakes that can happen, can creep in, and unfortunately for Simon Dodd, he has paid the price for it. Fallen back down into second place, relinquished the lead to Timms in the 46. That is the Mercedes just in front of him. And well, that is certainly a shame. He is still certainly in touch, but we've seen how difficult it can be sometimes to get these moves done. He's got his work cut out for him to get himself back into rhythm for one, because he's going to be shaken by that. His confidence is going to be knocked a little bit, and to actually get that move done is also going to be a mammoth task in of itself.
Harry Wills into the pit lane as well, so Sean Campbell's going to be returned to third position here, still waiting for Reiter and Bass to come in. The fact that it's a 50-minute race does mean that you're really going to struggle to stretch it out and make this on no stops at all with the 50% limited fuel load we've got here today. In the normal official GT3 series that you have on iRacing, they're 40-minute races, and at some circuits you can just about stretch things out, but it really has to be extreme, like a Long Beach kind of pack race kind of thing. With a very long pit lane as well, you can make your way through with a no stop, but it's very unlikely you're going to be able to do it here in this series at World Series Leagues, mainly because we're not going to Long Beach. I guess a lot of people are going to be very thankful for that. I have to say, a lot of the circuits, more of the bigger circuits, when you look down a Canada, sometimes you look down and think that's a bit odd. Just find that circuit there. You normally have the kind of a Barber Motorsports Park maybe, or a Long Beach, let's say, or a Belle Isle. But we've got none of that really. We've got big circuits everywhere for all of these races. So yeah, big circuits, big venues to go to, and hopefully good racing there as well. But John Campbell at the moment, third place for him, 15 minutes to go. Things certainly within his control in the AM category. It certainly is more up for grabs for everybody, as we're seeing some pit stops being made now. Where is the first car that's pitted in AM? Simon Dodd and Dean Timms are, yeah, I believe the first two, but Ashraf El Haddad is right on the back of them now.
Certainly is, and well, you do say about the sort of the smaller circuits. You have got the likes of Brands Hatch on the calendar as well, which is, you know, not the smallest track in the world, but certainly a lot smaller than the likes of the Nürburgrings, Monza, and etc. So yeah, we have got quite a variety of circuits. Imola as well has got tight and twisty. As Reiter and Bass finally come into the pit lane, they've stretched those fuel tanks very, very thin indeed. And the positive for them is the fact they don't have long to spend stationary, because they don't have to fuel up as much as the likes of those behind. Plus, also for them is they're going to have a slightly lighter car potentially as well. Well, of course, it will always even itself out as they have roughly the same amount of fuel in the tank. But the crucial thing will be the time spent stationary, and yeah, well, that'll certainly be interesting for them as Campbell inherits the race lead once again. Urenga into second place, so he has still gained a place out of the pit stop cycle. His Cope is a couple of seconds back after unfortunately getting stuck behind the GT3 AM leader on his exit of the pit lane. And as to be expected, the pit stop sequence has funneled quite a field spread, but no discredit to any of the drivers who are doing a fantastic job, especially the likes of Sean Campbell, who we haven't really seen much of, but his pace has been both quick and consistent, which is pretty much exactly what you could ask for.
Yeah, as you say, very much spread out in the pro category now, but in AM it's very close indeed. The top three are absolutely together, and we're waiting to see where Ivo van der Linden finds himself, because he's on the exit of the pit lane right now, and he might just jump everybody, or he's going to be right in with those guys at the moment. Let's see, there he is in the BMW, making his way down. There's Simon Dodd on the left-hand side. Dean Timms goes into second, with El Haddad into third, so they will stay 1, 2, 3 and 4, but this is going to be a great battle. 7 laps to go, including the one that they're on at the moment. That's plenty of time for El Haddad and van der Linden to make their way back to being 1 and 2 again, as they were in race 1.
Yeah, certainly so. We've seen the likes of all the front runners in previous races actually fight their way back towards the front, and yeah, that is nice to see indeed, and just goes to show how good they really are. But yeah, Dodd, Timms, El Haddad and van der Linden, of course, all going to be locked in hot pursuit, top 4 fight for the race lead. We didn't see much of the AMs in race 1. We're going to see a heck of a lot more of them here in race 2, as Dodd still leads. Timms is there in that Mercedes, because Dodd did get through not too long ago, back up into the race lead. But yeah, if they fight, the likes of El Haddad and van der Linden certainly going to be right back in to the mix. So yeah, this certainly could be one to look forward to. Only 12 minutes left to go in this race. Not long, really, when you think about it. So a sprint to the finish for sure.
Really is a sprint to the line now. Taylor Lane and Michael Patterman, excuse me, I think have lost out on positions here, haven't they? I swear they were battling over 10th earlier.
They were.
I don't know who's jumped in front of them, though, because everybody's pitted at this stage, I believe. Yep, they have. 2 of them. Well, it might have been Daniel Taylor. He did have a bit shorter of a pit stop there. He was 3 seconds quicker than Lane and 4 seconds quicker than Patterman. But is this battle for the lead really on at this stage? Well, 6/10 of a second was taken out of Campbell last lap, but nothing really to speak of there. Thomas Cope not really catching the Lamborghini either. The gap's still nearly 2 seconds. He's far closer in the AM category as things stand. And that is the great thing about this series, actually, the fact we've got a pro and an AM, is we've got 2 different races to watch, and it does mean that if one race starts to go a bit quiet, then we've got the other one to go and watch, and you can see they're trading lap times pretty much. Somebody takes 2 tenths and then the other one takes half a second, and then vice versa. These 2 RSR drivers just battling it out at the moment, but I don't think there's going to be too much change here in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, very topsy-turvy between the 2 of them, but it seems like Urenga does quite have the measure over Campbell, but it is just extracting that pace on a consistent basis. Of course, that last lap, as you say, just under 6/10 of a second quicker than Campbell. So if he can extract that on a consistent basis, the gap is around about, I think, 4-ish seconds or so. So yeah, you know, that can very quickly come down. I don't think they quite have the time for that, but yeah, Urenga has certainly shown some good pace in these latter stages of the race, and getting treated, I guess, in both races really. GT3 Pro had a really good start to this race. GT3 AM had a very chaotic start, and now we potentially have a 4-way fight for the race lead. So yeah, well, this is of course only press week for the Race Anywhere World Series, but if the rest of the season is anything to go by, I certainly cannot wait for the 10 weeks that we have of it.
Yeah, it is going to be very exciting indeed. Of course, we'll have the whole championship and points to discuss, a championship to win, and yeah, very much looking forward to getting on with the season proper next week. As I mentioned, it will be running every single week, apart from one break week that there will be in the middle of the season after Brands Hatch before Donington Park. That's between round 5 and 6. Just to break the season up a little bit, but other than that, it's racing every single week here until the start of September. As on board with Simon Dodd we go. He tries to defend from Dean Timms, and he's got 5 laps at the line to hold on here. It's 5 laps too many as far as he's concerned. I have to say, El Haddad and van der Linden, though, aren't making the inroads that I was expecting they need to be careful not to get drawn into a battle of their own.
Yeah, certainly so. They that would be the worst case scenario for them. They just need to see the front two, see how close they are, see the potential battle that's on the horizon, and then capitalise on that. But Van der Linden will know that. Is El Haddad going to defend? Indeed he is, all the way to the right-hand side down the pit straight. Is Van der Linden really eyeing up a move? Indeed he is. El Haddad having to go to the right-hand side to defend his position down in towards turn 1. You can see the late braking from Van der Linden, and try and soar all the way around the outside, get himself into P3, still side by side on the run towards turn 3. A crucial corner in order to get the drive. He's going to back out, try and go underneath them, get the drive down the straight. And of course, the more they fight, the more the likes of Timms and Dodd will pull away, and potentially Sastamoinen might bring himself back into this battle all the way once more. Defensive to the left-hand side goes El Haddad, and he certainly isn't giving up this podium place up easy.
No, he isn't, and this is exactly what they need to not do if they want to win this race in the AM category. Round the outside this time for Van der Linden, and he's going to go through with it as opposed to what he did at turn 3, going for the over and under. He's actually going for it properly now, and he makes his way around the outside at 6 to really confirm that place. So Ivo van der Linden is into third, but with 4.5 laps to go, is there enough time to get up towards Simon Dodd and Dean Timms there and overtake them as well? Time is certainly not on his side.
Not one bit, and the gap now increasing to around about 3 seconds or so. So it's going to take a lot of fighting and some remarkable pace from Van der Linden to close on to the top 2. But they are very close. Timms is in hot pursuit of Dodd, and of course that natural instinct, that racer instinct to win a race will certainly start to kick in for all of them as they extract just a little bit more from their car, be a little bit more committed, just send it just that little bit more. Of course, nothing at stake. They're not going to be losing a championship by going for the move. So bit of fun, and as racing drivers, they will want to lead the race. Pretty a much easier affair for Sean Campbell in the GT3 Pro categories. He's been in a much more dominant state as we see what happens to Ethan Bass in a very big handful of a car as that Ford GT through turn 1, and well, did very well to keep that pointing in a straight line, it must be said.
Did, but he was all over the place while he was doing it. But there we are, still on the road and still going to be a 6th place. I think he nearly managed to top 5, but had that late incident, of course, in race 1. So dropped down the order. Look at the times. There they are, just trading them really. Urenga is slightly closing, but the gap is still about 3 seconds as things stand, which is a little bit just too much to close in, possibly at this stage, although you never know. 3.5 seconds, only 3/10 of a second on that last lap, and that's not quite enough with only 4 laps to go as they're going along this one at the moment. Simon Dodd also with a little bit of distance over Dean Timms as well. As we mentioned earlier on, this race really has calmed down since the frantic opening moments, especially in the AM category. It decimated a quarter of the field really, but thankfully we do have a good race for the win going on right towards the very end here as well. So Simon Dodd has got his work cut out, but he's soaking up the pressure well. Dean Timms has never really at any point in this race looked like he was going to go through, other than when Ferrari outbraked itself down into this very corner just before the pit stops and gifted him the place. Other than that, it's not looked likely as Timms gets out of shape and he loses a lot of his hard work there.
Yeah, he does, and that's going to be a lot of progress. He needs to claw back. These two very, very close in terms of pace. It will come down to who flinches first, and while Dodd did flinch a little bit earlier on, he certainly doesn't seem to be flinching anytime soon, and with only a couple of laps left to go, it will come down to who is the more composed driver of the two. And while Dodd will certainly start to see the mistakes in his rearview mirror, start licking his lips and see the victory on the horizon. But yeah, if Timms wants any hope, he needs to start clawing that gap back up and be mindful really of Van der Linden and El Haddad, who certainly can see the rear end of the Mercedes in front of him. Not quite close enough really to put much pressure on, but any more mistakes like that, he might actually see himself looking backwards rather than forwards.
Yeah. See, out the final corner they go now. Except Ferrari leading Mercedes, leading BMW, leading Lamborghini in at the moment. So we've got a battle in Pro as well with Thomas Dandridge versus Harry Wills. This new Mercedes has been a hit with quite a few people, especially in Pro, but is yet to win a race out front of any of these categories. Commentated on a couple of races at Hockenheim last night in a GT3 only series race, and it was Mercedes all the way, Mercedes all day long. But today that is not quite the same. I guess it is a little bit difficult for these drivers to really get a grip, particularly get a grip of the setups this early on. It's all well and good being able to drive the car from baseline, but really getting a handle on the setup after it's only been out for about 3 weeks is quite difficult to do.
Absolutely, but they chose the car for the reason. Whether they're going to use this series as sort of a learning ground potentially for other series, maybe, we don't really know. But yeah, they certainly wouldn't have chosen that car if they didn't have confidence in it for them to do well. And well, the Mercedes has boasted some good success, of course, in the AM category. It is running in second place at the moment, and certainly has the pace to get onto the back of the race leader. So yeah, it certainly has been a good choice, but hasn't been easy to adapt to. And yeah, only the experience is the best teacher in that sense. So it should only get stronger over the course of the season. But yeah, that Mercedes does look strong, and that gap, I think, between Dodd and Timms certainly has closed a little bit, as Timms well and truly once again in hot pursuit.
It's a really frustrating distance for Dean Timms to be at. These guys get 2 laps to go when they go towards the line, although I will check that because I'm not sure Campbell's not going to be too far away from getting to the back of the... I'll say that these races are not quite long enough for him to get to the back of the AM field and start lapping them, especially with the amount that are out of the race at this stage. So it is going to be 2 laps to go for these AM cars. Certainly not going to be a problem next week at Le Mans either, the lapping of cars, you wouldn't imagine. Very long circuit indeed. Out the final corner they go, and onto the very long straight. Dean Timms really revving the nuts off this Mercedes at the moment, trying to go through, make a move on this Ferrari. You've got to be mindful as well that if he tries to make a move too early on Simon Dodd here, he will allow Van der Linden and El Haddad into this fight.
Certainly will, and he has going to be mindful of that. Of course, his opportunity is running out because obviously the time is ticking. He's not got long left. This is the penultimate lap of this race, so he does need to be mindful of the moves he does try and go for. But in the slipstream, if he has got a good high percentage chance move in order to go for it, he certainly has to take it in order to make sure he doesn't regret anything in this race. Tucked up in the slipstream, a long run down towards turn 5, looking to the left hand side, not heavily defended from Dodd as the 46, the Mercedes darts to the inside. He spun a little bit too much on the brakes. Van der Linden up into second, El Haddad up into P3, and Dodd a much more comfortable margin. And well, Dean Timms, that is a big shame, but I think just a little bit too late on the brakes there.
It is a big shame, and it certainly was too late on the brakes. This is not... well, this might be Liam Ahern. Actually, he's done the same thing, I think. Oh my goodness me, that could have been a lot worse for him. He thankfully manages with less consequences than Dean Timms there. So Timms drops to 4th. Look at the way, though, that the Ferrari had to go around Timms here. We're going to see the spin on board with the Mercedes here. It's just a case of locking up and going too deep on the brakes there and going around. But look at the way the Ferrari had to go around. The BMW and the Lamborghini you saw there were not affected at all. Those gaps are now much smaller. There's Dean Timms. He's away. And Sean Campbell is on to his final lap as things stand. But on the penultimate lap at the moment, the AM leaders, Dodd is under a lot of pressure from Ivo van der Linden. They're going around towards Canada Corner. The final couple of corners, he had to make a defence there into Canada Corner. Ivo van der Linden has got 1 lap to try and make this overtake and take 2 wins out of 2.
Absolutely, and there is a pretty high chance that he's going to be able to do it. This is probably one of the most important corners of the race for Van der Linden to get that drive off the corner. Of course, he's got El Haddad in hot pursuit versus him as well. A 3-horse race for the race lead. On to the final lap of race 2 here as they go through once more. Van der Linden having to go defensive versus Timms down the pit straight. Timms going to look to the left-hand side. It's the long way round to turn 1. How late can that Lamborghini brake? It's not quite late enough to sail around the outsiders. He just has to tuck in behind Van der Linden. Crucially, still certainly in the mix and able to put some pressure on that Ferrari. But yeah, Simon Dodd does not look to be flinching no matter what the pressure is that gets put on him. He's only got 1 more lap left in this race, and well, he's certainly hanging on to the pressure of this race lead very well, going defensive, trying to break the toe. Van der Linden not quite close enough to go for the move.
Not for the moment, and into turn 5 he's kind of spoiled his run as well, so he won't be able to go down the inside here, you wouldn't imagine. And he's gone for a late one. So late on the brakes and too late, far too late for Ivo van der Linden. He gave it all into turn 5, but he couldn't pull it up in time. And Simon Dodd's going to continue on in the lead. And now all he's got to do is hold off El Haddad, but up towards the line at the moment, holding everybody off right now. It's Sean Campbell who's going to take the victory in race 2 at the press day at Road America. Here in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship Season 3 In the EU category, Sean Campbell takes it from his teammate Alex Urenga, who gets a first and a second on the day. But the AM conversation's not quite done yet. Thomas Cope is going to round out your podium here in the pro category ahead of Reynolds and Reiter at your top 5. Taylor Lane off the road on the final lap as well here at the moment. But I think, oh yeah, there he is at Canada Corner. Just getting back onto the road again. But where is Simon Dodd? Where is Ashraf Al Haddad in this battle? He's not close enough. It doesn't look like he's close enough, and Simon Dodd might look like he's going to hold on for a famous victory here. He's soaked up all of the pressure from 3 different drivers throughout this race. Ivo van der Linden threw the Hail Mary at turn 5. It didn't come up for him, and so Simon Dodd is going to take the second race here in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship Media Day. There it is, over the line. And Simon Dodd takes the victory. What a great fight that was in dramatic moment though. Ivo van der Linden was going to take second. He was going to take first or nothing there.
Yeah, absolutely. Put everything on the line, and well, fair play. You've got to go for those moments sometimes, and he wanted to make it 2 races in 2. Fortunately, that's not quite how it worked. But Simon Dodd, bravo, hats off to the Ferrari drivers, Clips Racing team, and yeah, well, I think 3 different drivers took their turn to try and knock him off his pedestal at the top of the tower, and well, none of them were successful. And well, his biggest enemy really was himself in that race. He made one mistake, lost the lead, quickly got it back, and really didn't. Well, he obviously had to look backwards, had to be defensive, but other than that was pretty much unfazed by the pressure, did everything he needed to do to consolidate this win here today. And well, if those races are anything to go by in the next 10 weeks, well, 11 weeks including the break week, well, they're going to be something as Simon Dodd celebrates with some donuts, and yeah, I'd say they're well deserved.
Yes, they are indeed. So there he goes, having a bit of fun there down at turn 5, where effectively he did end up winning that race. Let's take a quick look at those results. Sean Campbell wins by 3 seconds ahead of Alex Urenga and Thomas Cope, rounding out your podium. Reynolds and Reiter, your top 5. Ethan Bass just outside of that with Thomas Dandridge and Liam Ahern. Quite a big gap back to him in 8th. Daniel Taylor and Michael Patterman round out your top 10. Taylor Lane did manage to finish within a minute of the leader. Harry Wills in the end did not. Pale, Phillips, Kjellberg, Furs and Mathiasen didn't make the flag in the end after their incidents and accidents throughout the day. In the AM category, it was, of course, Simon Dodd who had that great victory there. Ashraf El Haddad with a 2nd place. I believe that's his second. It's certainly his 2nd podium. Ivo van der Linden with another podium as well, as Dean Timms dropped to 4th late on. Jermo Sastamoinen put in a good performance there, as did Jeremy Dobova. Thomas Pugh had to do a lot of overtaking there for 7th. Goodsell, Ez and Bout round out your top 10. Then it was Kasper Jarks, Victor Chamorro, David Camano, Diede de Vlaminck did make it to the end, so did Kurt Hood Jensen, but after that, I don't actually know if he made it to the flag, but after that, Schuster, De Bova, Wigboldus, all of those guys didn't make it to the end, I am afraid. So that is it for the first race, the press day here at Road America. Let's have a quick chat, though, to Harry Willis before we go here this evening. Speak to one of our drivers. Harry, from the pro category, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here. How were those couple of races for you? I mean, great entertainment for us up here in the commentary box, but especially talk about that 2nd race, because reverse grids are always very exciting. But what was that particular one like to drive in?
Yeah, it was good. I think I over-egged myself a little bit and hit a couple of people, so I'll be sending some sorry messages out. And of course, it's always a little bit more embarrassing when you run the show, but yeah, it was great. I mean, press day is just all about, the guys, bit of an icebreaker, bit of a test of the proceedings to make sure that we all, understand how we work, for the drivers to understand how we operate prior to obviously a point scoring round, and get all the little bits ironed out and get the creases sorted and stuff. But I think it was a great race. I really enjoyed it. I think there's some really quick people in here, and that's good to see. And yeah, it was great. It was a fantastic little bit with Thomas Dandridge at the end, as ever. He's a Verve Racing team's a great team to have back in my series. I'm delighted to see them come back with with 3 really good drivers. So one of them couldn't be here this evening, but for all of the drivers that take part, all of the teams that are participating in the series, I couldn't thank them enough. It's what makes the series happen. We just enjoy putting on good racing, and it was good fun. And thank you to you guys for putting on a show as ever.
Thanks very much for having us. It's been great here for the press day, and we're absolutely looking forward to those 10 weeks, and we look forward to see you out there once again. But Harry, thanks for coming to join us. Good luck with the with the running of the series next week, because it's going to be, of course, hectic as ever, but I'm sure it will be smooth as ever. We look forward to seeing you next week at Le Mans. But for now, congratulations on the drives tonight, and good luck for the season.
Thank you very much, guys, and yeah, pleasure, of course, to have you guys calling it, and hopefully we see some good, clean, fair racing. No illusions. There's going to be some hiccups along the way, as to be expected, but as long as they're at a minimum, we'll be just fine. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll do it all again in a couple of hours for the US guys.
Yes, we certainly will. Thanks very much, Harry, for coming for a bit of a chat. There we are, Zach. The press day at Road America done here for the EU. We've still got the US coming a little bit later on in a few hours' time, but that was good fun, and we're looking forward now to Le Mans.
Yeah, certainly so. A great way to proceed the 10-week season that we have, and yeah, Road America certainly did deliver. In both races, we had fantastic racing up and down the field, and very deserved winners. And it does go to show who might be where over the course of the 10-round season, who are the ones to look out for, and who are the ones you expect to do well. But overall, really did enjoy it, and nice that Harry was there coming. And it is always nice to have a good atmosphere, positivity between the drivers there. While yes, they are competing for pretty decent prizes as well come the season's end, they are still getting on, having some fun with it, and well, that's what's important at the end of the day.
Absolutely it is. We have had a lot of fun here at the press day at Road America. We're going to have even more in 1 week at Le Mans. Make sure you join us for that. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside me, Zach Sweeney, with David Christie behind the cameras. Make sure you also join us for the US version, which is coming up in just about 3 hours' time here on Absolute Sim Racing. In case you're joining us for that, or indeed Le Mans in 1 week's time, it's goodbye for now.